how can I
Yeah.
use AI to do this better? And that's always the
Yeah.
thought you should be having
And
throughout
it
your day.
doesn't mean that every time you're going to, but it means that you're trying to make sure you haven't tried that first. And and
Gotcha.
and
Yeah.
this is the way that you're going to find those little 2 minute to 10 minute time savers, but the compounding effect of that is pretty big. And
All right, welcome back to the Leadership Lens with Taylor Robinson. Today we have a spectacular guest, someone who I've known for quite a few years now. We play golf together. He's a good buddy of mine. This is Marc Reifenrath. He is the chairman of the board now, was the co-founder and CEO of his business, Spinutech. They are an independent, full-service digital marketing agency that provides full-funnel marketing strategies, performance marketing, and custom solutions. So we appreciate you having on the show here, Marc. And yeah, thank you very much.
well, it's an honor to be here, and I'm excited to have a great conversation.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. Well, I was wondering, just to kind of kick things off and give people a little bit of background on you, I think you helped start or started, I don't know if you're a co-founder or sole founder of Spinutech pretty much right out of school. Can you just tell us a little bit about the beginning stages of that and how that came about? It was some time ago.
Yes, yes, it was some time ago. So I was actually a junior in college at Northern Iowa. So it was 2000. Dot-com bubble was bursting. It was really started as more of a resume builder, a way to get our abilities out there and stand out in the interview process, which I think you'll appreciate. Uh, it actually ended up working out a little bit better than that. We landed a couple of small websites, but then we won the local hospital's website. And the reason we did that is because we had built a content management system, which now is very common and commoditized, I'll say. But we were one of the first in the Midwest to have our own content management system where you could update your website on your own. So that was our differentiating factor. And it was myself and a childhood friend and a college friend. And we didn't really pay ourselves for the first couple of years, but just kept chugging along. A couple of us had other jobs on the side, and I was selling cell phones in the mall. Just kind of kept to it and really grinded it out, and being in the right spot repetitively paid off. And here we are 25 years later, grew into a full service digital agency, not just doing web dev and design. And it's been an amazing journey. And yeah, I love all the things that go into building a business and the evolutions and life cycles of that. It's been different from when there was a couple of us to 15 of us to 50 to 100 to 100 plus, and those are all different stages.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that you've talked a lot about on LinkedIn and other things, and even with myself, is company culture, cultural developments. And, in my mind, in running my business, I develop culture just by doing what I think is the right thing. Really, that's kind of what I narrow it down to. What's the best way to work with this individual employee of mine? What's the best way to work with the client? What's the best way to go about training my team? And I guess I don't really put a lot of external thought about it. I'm not looking outside of my business inside of it. And when you're developing a company culture personally, we'll talk just kind of about yourself. Is that something that you have on your mind where you're going, this is a really great opportunity for me to, push this particular type of culture? Is it just you acting the way that you act on a regular basis? I mean, how much thought, I guess, do you put into it?
So I love that you're doing it that way. It's authentic. You're not chasing it. You're not trying to aspire to something. It's just being who you are. We didn't really talk or even know what culture, company culture, corporate culture meant until a good, I'm going to say 10 plus years into the business. So I think we were unknowingly setting the tone, but that was who we were. We didn't have to fake anything. We were just being ourselves. And we did little things that helped add to it or build it. Introducing a snack program, defining our dress code policy, half day Fridays we started. Some of those came after going to South by Southwest. It's down in Austin, and it's an interactive festival. And in the late 2000s, it was smaller. It's grown much bigger, but it was just authentic to who we were, and so that was very easy. And I think this is a good point too of when you're small, it's easy to just not have to do that. As you grow, though, I noticed we had to be a little bit more intentional about what is our onboarding process? What does that include to explain what our culture is? And I'd say more importantly, what it isn't. And I would introduce core values as part of this too. That is a big part of it. And so just being intentional and making sure that you're weeding out any things that you don't want as you grow, and really enhancing the things that you do want to come out. And then I think something that's beautiful is, like you said, how you work with your clients and in each person. A good, meaningful, authentic set of core values is also an amazing framework to solve problems. So when something is wrong, you can say, which core value is misaligned here, either with that individual or that client, and go, oh, they're not showcasing we over me. They're not showcasing we do the right thing. And so those are two of our core values. And so now you can go, okay, well, now we kind of got it narrowed down, and it allows you a path to attack the problem, not the person, and go forward that way.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, we've got our 5 core values in my business, and once a week when we have our meeting, we run the EOS system to work on the business, not in the business. The first thing we do right when we kick off is everybody says how they used one of our 5 core values in the last week. So you're always thinking about it, you're always refreshing it, you're always kind of giving yourself a pat on the back on a weekly basis, and it's a way of kind of reiterating it and reminding people about what they are, but also allowing them to exemplify how they're actually fitting in to kind of our core values. So that's it's one of the things that I've really enjoyed doing ever since implementing that system about
That's great. Love that.
2 years ago. Well, you know a lot about marketing, you know a lot about technology, you know a lot about social, you know a lot about this space. And one of the things that we just can't get away from right now is the use of artificial intelligence. And that is one of the areas, I think, in marketing, in development, in content, all these things where AI is kind of hitting our world hard right now. It's kind of the first tip of the spear of things that are getting hit. And I'm wondering if you could just talk a little bit about either how Spinutech is using it or not using it or what have you. Just kind of what are some of your general thoughts about the use of AI within marketing and within driving content and strategy and really just getting more eyeballs?
Yeah. I think that there's 2 pretty predominant camps. There's those who won't admit it, but they're fearful and afraid of what this is going to do. And then there's those that are very excited about it and are kind of running towards it and trying to embrace it. And I'm definitely super excited. I think this is an amazing time in history, and what this is going to look like. This time will be looked back upon in the future as a time of great change and a big shift in how so many things were done, not just with marketing. And so that's exciting that we get to live through this and be part of it. And I think that everybody needs to have the attitude of running towards it. And how are we using it? A lot of ways. So many small ways, a few big ways, and some aspirational ways that we're working to really have it transform our business. I think if you look at, for any business, it's easy to dream too big very quickly. And so what are the simple things, the low-hanging fruit, that it's something you could automate or use the tools to save 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes a week, but look for all those low-hanging fruit opportunities. So, one way is just like every other business. How can we make our team more efficient with the hours that they already have to get more out of them? And this is just classic business. I always like to bring things back to a manufacturing mindset. How do we get more product running through the system that we have with the same cost or lower cost? And another way to say that is, from a human perspective, how do you let each team member do what they're best at as many hours out of every day as they can? And so AI is a tool belt that has a lot of amazing tools of a lot of different types. There's some sharp ones. There's some ones that'll pry things open. There are all kinds of different tools, but becoming an AI native, AI first person or team member employee is critical right now. And that's what we're really trying to get our team members to move towards is thinking with AI first, but also being responsible. So it's, the way I look at it would, how can we create efficiency for our team, efficiencies for our clients, but ultimately get better results or faster results, more efficient and more cost effectively for our clients. And every week there's new things that are coming out that are changing the landscape, and it's hard to keep up with it. But I think the other thing I'll throw in here, what's interesting is you have a shift in society about how people in the US want to work. So let's just be honest. Some people don't want to maybe work as much. They want more vacation. They want paid more. All these things that are kind of already in conflict a little bit. And then you have a very tough market in general. And then I would put on top of that a shifting market as far as how consumers want to be marketed to and for and chase kind of. And then you have AI. And so all these things are coming at the same time, which makes it pretty messy. But the opportunity for brands is to embrace this. And, consumers may not be making buying decisions as quickly as they were 5, 6 years ago, but you can still win in these down markets. And so getting somebody to the finish line, and it's depending on price point here, but, being efficient right now, because it is tougher to get marketing dollars. I would argue that you need to be spending more right now, but getting the user down the funnel, converted as much as you can, even if they don't buy. But when the market does come back, now if you keep them engaged, you can convert them. So there's an opportunity to win market share over the next couple of years, even though it's not maybe happening right now. This is more of the farming period to then really capitalize on that in the next couple of years. And we are all going to have to get more efficient in using these tools, because the cost pressures, the ways to run your business more efficiently aren't going to go away. And so, again, I think it's really exciting, and there's so many ways to use it, and we can dive into a few examples if you want to. But I think that it's really fascinating, and you should be running towards it. Would maybe be the things I'm keen on.
Well, I want to jump back to one thing that you said and ask for just a little bit of clarification. You said, I forget exactly the term, but pushing people or employees to be AI first or something like that. Native. When you say that, are you saying when you have a to-do item, when you're going through your work day, are you saying think of how can I use AI to do this better? So you're saying always have in the back of your mind, how can I use AI to do this better? And that's always the thought you should be having throughout.
And it doesn't mean that every time you're going to, but it means that you're trying to make sure you haven't tried that first. And this is the way that you're going to find those little 2-minute to 10-minute time savers. But the compounding effect of that is pretty big. And the better we all learn how to use it, because the other piece of it is how do I use it? Like you and I were talking the other day about talking to AI and how it's a more organic and natural way to get better responses, because when we type, we're so succinct. So just getting everybody on the team to embrace it and find ways that it unlocks growth for them. And the more confidence they get, the more willing they're going to be to try something else and keep pushing the boundaries to find ways. And then I would say on top of that is, how do you get your teams to share when they find an unlock of some sort? How do they go, hey, Taylor, I want to show you this, and actually show it? So many times with AI, we talk about these things and everybody's like, cool, but how? And so getting your teams to embrace thinking about it first, trying it, and then sharing it as well, so that everybody can gain from that efficiency depending on what it is and how you're using it.
You're really speaking my language, because I and my company are doing all of that right now. And what I hear a lot of people say is they feel like they're behind in the use of AI. It's like, it came out this year, like almost really, at least in a big way. And a lot of people already feel like they're behind. And I've certainly felt that way many times. But now at these weekly meetings that we have, almost half of the hour-and-a-half call that we have is just talking about the different AI tools that we're utilizing and how we're utilizing them. I will not say, though, that we're necessarily showing each other how we're using it. We are explaining it. So that's a good little tidbit, I think, that I need to keep in mind is, well, that's really, really cool, but show me. And let's have other people try it and whatnot. And I've got everyone in my team thinking in their own world, how can they better utilize it? And it's actually become basically a rock of ours that you need to come almost on a weekly basis as to some way that you've used it within the last week, and just sharing those ideas. And my team has been really successful with finding some of those ways, and they are little teeny things every once in a while, but that has crescendoed into these little teeny things where now we're taking that little thing we learned and this little thing we learned and put them together, and boom, I just saved an hour out of my day today.
So let me give you an idea. I haven't done this for our company, but it's one I've wanted to. You have your weekly L10, you got an hour and a half, talk about the biggest things, the most important things. So I love that you're spending time on AI, because that is one of the most important things right now. What if you had an agent that understood your company, understood how an L10 should be run, and has been part of all of your meetings week and everything, that's also listening to give you feedback at the end and summarize the notes and the takeaways, and really help push people to make sure that their rocks are staying on track. There's some, I mean, you could break this down 50 different ways of what it could all do, but just putting another person or agent into that L10 to help you do that better.
Hmm.
And again, part of this is, how do we learn how to dream with AI? How do we learn how to think bigger than things we've already seen? And so, having that listening person, agent that can help you with your L10, make it even better so that you all leave and go, we really got off track. It's hard for us to go, okay, you're politicking. You're, whatever the different sayings are in EOS. Well, it could remind you of that and say you had 20% politicking or whatever occurring in this meeting. It's like, well, that's pretty good feedback. We need to get a little better at that. And maybe it was awkward for somebody to actually bring it up, but the agent doesn't have that emotion. They're just going to say it. They're going to be very blunt.
Yeah. Done. You've already convinced me. It's going to be implemented at our next meeting
Yeah.
on Wednesday next week. So I appreciate you. When you talk about agents, this is a term that I've heard many times over. Do I have agents that are kind of working on my behalf in the background? No, I don't. I'm still learning this space. Could you just school us a little bit on what you mean?
Yeah. So let's think of some very simple ones that are all, simple steps. So thinking of a typical workplace, you have a workbook, a handbook, you have some HR policy, benefits, all the HR stuff that a typical employee would need access to. So creating an agent where you have all those documents, and as opposed to letting HR have to respond to those constantly and look them up, giving that interface to an employee, a team member, that they could look at it at any time and ask, what's our holiday schedule for Thanksgiving and Christmas this year? Where do I get my dental card? What's maternity paternity leave look like? What forms do I need to fill out? And just getting those quick answers and building that interface.
And we just hold on one second. When you say that, you're saying you give that agent to the HR person. You're saying anyone in the business has this agent accessible to them and they can ask.
Both. So the HR team might kind of quote unquote own that and monitor it and give it any feedback if anything's off. But the team member, you could have an interface where they could ask those questions of it. So for example, for our business, we have our operating agreement and all the different agreements from a legal perspective. And it's not frequent, but there's a lot of pages. There's several hundred pages of legal documents. I uploaded all of those and created a Spinutech LLC legal agent that I now can go and say, how frequently are we required to have board meetings? What does it say about this? And just looking up different things, and it'll say, section 6.1 of such document states this, and then this document says this, which means you need to meet quarterly and have it documented, and so on. And so there's so many simple things like that. Now you can get way more complex and having it, looking at emails or developing an email or responses and stuff. But the thing I'd say about this is just start simple. Just try it. Just try, mess around and just try. It's not very hard at all to build one. You can put in words to use, not to use, things to kind of key in on. Think of, for Spinutech, a persona for a client, saying, here's everything that we know about this client, and we want to put everything against that to kind of test it almost before we put it in the wild, and keep making that better and smarter with all of our content, our creative, all of that stuff. And so, having one of those for every single client. It's a very simple thing to do, but it's a nice way to enhance the experience from our client's perspective to make our product even better before it goes out into the wild. So, a lot of our clients have legal terms that we have to say or we can't say. There's guarantees we can't make in a certain way. And so just thinking before we even have to send it to their legal team, if all content and creative goes through it looking for those things, and yes, our team knows that, but we're all human, and it's gonna, potentially slip through. Well, now we've just eliminated it and made it faster, saying it's already been through this. If you guys want to review it one last time, absolutely. We've built one for RFP responses or RFI responses. So a lot of times we'll get these requests for information or requests for proposal, and it'll ask for the same 50 questions. What year were you started? What type of corporation are you? What's your annual revenue? Biggest client? Whatever. Well, these are things that take our team time, but we have a lot of that in different documents we've already done. So it can look at all of our previous responses, pull those answers, and kind of formulate and do a good chunk of that response for us, and then let our team spend the time on the customized response and approach. But there's agents doing that, and then just AI in general for one of those is probably, we're at the point where we can probably do, depending, 40 to 60, 70% of that response using AI to make it much more efficient. And I would say much better. It's just going to a layer deeper. Now, our competition is likely doing that too, so the responses have just gotten better in general, but we just got to find ways to be better than most in those situations.
Yeah.
Is that good? Sorry, I went down a lot of tangents there.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to kind of go a little bit off topic here and just tell a little story just because I thought it was so cool. I went to an AI for business owners event a couple of weeks ago, and there was a presenter, but then people were giving examples of how they were using it. One of the guys said there was a test that he had to take, and he had like 3 weeks to study for it or something, and it was 200 pages, this whole book that he had to learn. He uploaded the entire book to AI, said, I need to learn this information for this specific test. I'd like you to transfer this into a podcast that I can listen to. And it was two podcasters talking back and forth, doing a Q&A and talking about the topics. And when he was working out or doing whatever, he had his headphones in and he was listening to it, never read a page of the book, aced the test, and was able to do it in his free time instead of sitting there kind of reading and whatnot. I just thought that was the coolest example I'd ever seen anyone use it for.
Google just launched, hold on, I have a tab open on my phone I want to pull up here. Learn Your Way from Google just came out. It's intended more for high schoolers, I think, but it is, you upload the content and then it will customize an approach for you. So you say, I like basketball, I like sports, I like whatever, and it will use examples of Michael Jordan jumping is one of the videos I watched, saying, his downward force and then his upward force, and explains it. And then it'll do sample quizzes and everything. If you miss it, we'll go in and explain it. So, the cool thing, again, this is why I'm running towards AI, because it's going to help our kids. It's going to help medicine. It's going to help marketers. It's going to help businesses. It's going to help us personally just do better. And so there's so many good things. Yes, there's some definite negatives and downsides that will come of it, but there's so much better and good that can come from it as well. And I love that example. I mean, that's a really good one. That's easy. Who can't do that, right? Anybody can do that.
I just thought it was so cool. Like who wants to read this 200-page book? You're in your car, you're working out, just listen to it. And I learned very well just from listening and seeing. I'm not necessarily the book guy who's going to learn it that way. So I thought that was very, very cool. I want to ask, you're a business owner, leader, grower, someone who is excited about AI, someone who's using AI. I'd say, you're pushing the envelope and you're learning a lot and you're helping people like me just kind of open my eyes a little bit to kind of how I can utilize this. For people who, whether they be business owners or whether they be anything, but how would you recommend someone who's not using AI today, or somebody who wants to start using it but doesn't really know where to start? Like, how does someone get started in this in a practical way that will stick with them, hopefully?
Yeah. So what's so funny about this is I get rewinding myself to 2000 when we were starting the business. I didn't know how to code a website. I went to the web. They didn't have YouTube then. But I would go to message boards and find different things that were talking about the products that I was using to build these websites, and just learn. It was a sponge. And so there's so much content out there. There's so much good content. Go to YouTube, go to TikTok, and if you search for this stuff, start to watch it, and then literally just get in the tool and start to play around with it, and try the different things that you've seen, or try to incorporate it into your day. Help me with a recipe for whatever. Help me plan a trip or a weekend getaway to Chicago. It can do all those things. You can have it search for flights, and just when you see something or you hear a story, try it. I love the one of, I just left a meeting, have it interview me about the meeting I just had and summarize the notes. Like, there's nothing stopping anybody from doing that. You just got to start to use it, and the more you do, the more comfortable you're going to get, and all of a sudden you're going to kind of get addicted to it and say, man, what else could I do? What other things could I do with my day to day, my week to week? And that gentleman that shared that is awesome. That's a great example that so many people could use. But you just got to start trying. Like a lot of things, if you're going to play guitar, you just got to start picking it up and doing a couple chords at a time, and then move on and get a little bit better and a little more confident and so on. It's the same thing with this.
You had just made a post on LinkedIn yesterday about people's use of AI, and you we golf together. You put it similar to your handicap, I think, and I think you said something along the lines of people in golf, they say they have a better handicap than they actually have, or people with AI say that they're worse with it. What was it that you said, and what did you mean by that? Just remind
I
us, because
think
I thought we were.
it's a lot like golf. There's a lot of people that they're gonna own their handicap and say I'm actually kind of worse than that. But a lot of you get under a 10 handicap, and a lot of times those golfers are trying to say they're a little better than maybe what their handicap actually is. And I think there's a lot of people that think they're better with AI than they probably really are as well. And I point that out because it's okay. Like there aren't really any expectations right now. It's okay to not know everything, and everybody's learning. And I think being open and honest and vulnerable with that is a good way to learn too. And ask people like, I love to ask Taylor, what's one of your coolest things you're using AI for right now? And sharing that and just getting those ideas and going, could I use that in my day to day, week to week? And so it's kind of one of those opening questions, when I'm at YPO events, it's what's the best retreat you've ever had, or what's the best only in YPO thing you've ever had. So this is just another question I like to ask when I meet somebody new. What's the best way you're using AI right now? You got any cool things you can share? And people are very excited to share it too. And so it's an easy thing to do. But yes, I liked we were talking and I think I said it and I go, ooh, that's a LinkedIn post.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing I'll share with you is I took that, I picked up my phone and said, hey, I have a LinkedIn post idea. And I said that, and they were like, oh, what a great idea. Of course, they always tell you it's a great idea. But I came back, and it was pretty much what I posted. I didn't really have to change a whole lot on that one. And so that was a 2-3 minute ordeal after we hung up. I did that, and I was like, I'm not even going to schedule this one. I'm just going to drop it right away. And then went from there. So, had I tried to write that on my own, probably wouldn't have been as good. Definitely wouldn't have been as quick. But I got it out, turn and burn real quick.
Mhm. I want to use a little bit of time here, if you wouldn't mind. I'm going to totally switch gears on you and kind of bring this back to a little bit of my world in executive recruitment and interviewing and talent assessment and all these different things. You know, I guess maybe there is a connection here, but right now we're using some AI tools when I have my interviews. When I interview people, we've got some AI tools that we kind of strap on top of that. It's recorded and some of these other things. And some of them, they'll say the candidate is an 8 out of 10 in confidence. The candidate is a 7.5 out of 10 in communication or what have you. When I get those types of figures, there's a little bit of hesitancy, I guess I would say, that I have of, how does the AI really know about, how well this person can communicate, about how actual confident they are and whatnot. When it comes to assessing human beings and using a computer to assess someone, not from you got the answer right or wrong, that's pretty black or white, but when assessing their personality and whatnot, do you find any, do you have any sort of issues with that? What are your thoughts with a computer assessing a human being's capabilities?
So there's good and bad of that. It's removing emotion, which is good because we tend to have subconscious bias on different things. So I think that's good. The other thing I'm a big believer though is just final mile mentality. So no matter what you have AI do, always being in review and make sure that you're looking over it and that it's not hallucinating or anything like that. But I would say again, try it and keep giving it feedback. If it's failing you in any way, letting it know and telling it where it was wrong. But I think it's a great way to help validate, maybe what you felt about that and matching that up. And actually, I've got, if you want, I've got a great story of when I replaced myself, how I used AI to help create the job description.
Please tell us.
So I replaced myself. We did she started in March. And so going back to a year ago now-ish, I helped build the job description. I helped build the goals and how we would measure those. I helped build the onboarding process. But then once we got some candidates in, I put them all into AI and really gave them their LinkedIn. If we had a resume, I attached that and said, I need you to build a way to compare these against the job description and our goals. and create a grading scale in essence. So it created a 6 category, 5 points each rating, and it gave me feedback on each one of them, and then I had it build me interview questions. And then what I said was, now, based on your review of each candidate, what specific questions would you have for them to validate or dig further on where they were maybe lower compared to where we wanted them? So it definitely eliminated a few people quickly, and when I read it, it validated it. There was a few where I thought were overrated from what I would have maybe based on the conversation, but again, it was a starting point. And then those questions, though, were great, that were unique to each person, because it was doing what I should have naturally done had I dug in and spent all that time researching on my own, of saying, oh, I need to ask Taylor these 3 questions specifically about revenue growth or whatever. And then just actually putting some of their answers back in against it too, and looking for themes and variances and stuff. So that was the first time that I personally used it for a big hire like that at that depth. But it was really, that was invigorating to do that, and have it help too, and then sharing that with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to go into too many of the potential downsides here with AI, because we're being very positive about it. But one of the things that I'm seeing in my world, which is, I hope, validating the value that I provide to my clients, is, to your point, we're seeing candidates take their resume, upload it to AI, upload the job description, and say, reformat this resume so that it better matches with the job description. And it can make stuff up. It can really make stuff up. And you kind of look at the resume, you go, oh my God, this person is so perfect. They're so amazing. And that real human to human interview of asking behavioral based questions, open-ended questions, digging a little bit deeper when you kind of go, I don't know about this too much. And
Right.
really questioning people and pushing them is something that I've really had to keep an eye on, because we are seeing not only people reformat their resumes using AI to look a little bit better and maybe fib a little bit, but also we've had some people that are pretty obviously reading AI given answers. You can
Yeah.
almost see their eyes moving across the screen, and they're talking like a robot. And
Right.
you can totally tell. And it's just another of those things that we need to look out for, I think, especially in my business where it's all humans and all humans, and really assessing the human being and not allowing AI to kind of fool you is something that we're really keeping an eye on. And it's a little bit freaky. There's going to be some abilities out there to
Right.
beat the
So let me
system.
give you a question that I've asked people before. This is just kind of a fun dinner topic. You're interviewing a recent grad from college, and you have the kid that knows nothing about AI, super smart, can talk to you, interview is great, but their AI knowledge is very low and not there. Then you have the kid that used AI in college, got caught cheating using it. Which kid do you want to hire right now? So do you want the kid that knows how to use the tool, or the kid that doesn't, is a real question, and it's kind of what you're describing too. There's some wrong with that, but the kid that knows how to use it is potentially worth more right now. Forget the morale part of that, but
Well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, if you were asking me the same question 2 years from now and a kid hadn't been using AI, I'd say, I don't.
right, right, and that will become more like
Today it's a little bit different, but yeah, the
yes,
morality thing I think comes into it, and that's another thing that you got to assess a little bit.
right.
So no,
I ran
it's
into a
interesting.
professor from where I went to college, spoke at his class many times, known him for 20 plus years, and we were talking about this, and I said, Marty, you need to, instead of trying to find ways to catch them using this, just make everything way harder and let them use it, because that's what they're going to do in the real world. And he's like, oh man, that's great. And so, in the college level, it's hard to just instantly change. But I was like, I want a kid who has used it as much as possible during college. Just make everything 10 times harder. Because if they're going to use AI, they can do it, but just find ways to use it and just make the task really hard. But they're going to learn a ton by doing that, having to do more research. It's kind of like when I was in college, you still had to go to the library and actually use books, and it was kind of right on the precipice of using books or the internet, and we could use maybe two internet articles or web articles, but we still had to quote or cite 5 books. And I remember hating that. I'm like, who's going to use books, to do some of this stuff? And so it's just a changing of the times. But I think that from a recruiting perspective, you want the person who is very well equipped with that AI tool belt.
Hmm. Well, I'll let you go after this one, but to stay on the educational system, and it goes into the AI deal, I probably shouldn't even talk about it because I haven't done enough research on it, but I saw basically an article about them giving a group of young kids an AI tool, and it would ask them questions about their interests and how they like to learn and these other things. And so then it would custom create the academia to teach them about these different concepts through school. And the kids that used the AI platform that was specifically designed for them and their interests. You brought up, the example with Michael Jordan and him jumping and slamming and putting it down and whatnot. You, as someone who likes basketball, Michael Jordan, you can probably remember that a lot easier because it used that exact example. And in this, particular group that they used, they said these kids just crushed these tests and they learned it in like a quarter of the time. So that's one of the areas where, are we still going to continue to teach people things? Yes, of course. People aren't going to be idiots and not learn anything. But there's also an opportunity here for technology to meet people where they are and teach them in a specific way where they're best taught to their particular brain type and their interests and everything else. And I just kind of went, man, is the entire education system going to get turned on its head and we're going to do this totally differently?
Yes, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually watched the video you're talking about, and it's actually about the same Google product I was talking about. I think the students that used it, I think it was 60 students total between the ages of 15 and 18. The 30 that used it, it was like 77 versus 64, where that was a comparison chart. I don't know what that was out of 100, or I'm assuming, but they did that much better. My wife's reaction was they only got 77 out of 100. I'm guessing it was, the point was they did significantly better than the group that didn't. And this is true with doctors too that use it for diagnosing and stuff. So there's just, yeah, we're in such an amazing time with this, and it is going to present challenges that are going to, are we okay with them using it, or to answer questions? Well, would they do that in their work? Was that how they, if they're going to perform your work that way, then that's probably good that they know how to do that. If they're not, then no, that is kind of cheating and maybe not the best way, ethically to approach it. But we're going to have a lot of these challenges that we're going to have to rewrite handbooks. We're going to have to rewrite some policies. But this is all good. It's good change, and I hope that if you listen to the All In podcast, I hope that America comes out on top of this and is in the driver's seat, controlling a lot of the approach on this globally, because that'll be good for us long term.
Well, when I was learning how to do math in school, they always said, you're not going to have your computer on, or your calculator on you in your pocket all the time. And like, hello, I got a calculator in my pocket all the time. So hopefully we stay up to date with all this stuff. And I appreciate you being with us here, Marc. Spectacular conversation. Really, really great insights from you. Looking forward to seeing kind of the next chapter of what you're going after these days, and appreciate you and all the wisdom that you've provided to me over the years. So thank you again for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was great.